Deceit is everything to Zaiwass. She used to be a spy, so I'm gonna take her every word with a grain of salt. Who's behind the legend, Miss Zaiwass? Who are you, really?
Just an animal raised to survive, Mr. Featherland. And because I've been taught, I know how to survive. I always was what I had to be.
And you managed to dodge my question. Clever.
Well, you see, this is one of the typical elements of survival. The way of dodging a delicate question and still making the questioner believe he got the answer. But you're too cunning and experienced, aren't you? You're not an easy one to fool.
I'm trying to maintain appearances, ma'am.
You should. Appearances, most of the time, are stronger and more dangerous than the truth.
Tell me, were you really the king's spy?
If that's such an open secret, then I haven't been doing my job very well, isn't that right? Yes, I was a spy. But that's such a blunt way of putting it. I always say I used to undertake confidential, generally political assignments of a delicate nature for the king that were in the interests of national security.
Put that way, it sounds rather romantic.
Don't believe the cheap fiction, Mr. Featherland. Espionage is anything but romantic.
I believe you, madam.
If you must know, I only did it because I believed I could protect those that I serve. Weapons have only one use in this world: to keep the peace. Yes, I always thought about myself and my craft that way.
Thank you for your honesty, ma'am. Why did you decide to open a brothel?
You know, this place used to be an orphanage. Then after the Great Avian Plague, a hatchery. Then, young mothers lived here who had nowhere else to go. That's when I took over.
Young mothers and prostitutes. That feels like a sharp turn.
No, it didn't happen like that, of course. The process took 20 years, but one thing remains the same. I wanted to help girls who had nothing and no one. To help them.
And this was the best you could do, helping them sell their bodies.
You see things very superficially, Mr. Featherland. We're a family who helped each other even at the worst of times, took care of each other, and what's most important, survived. Yes, survive, no matter the cost.
And it's the cherry on top of the most treasured secrets of the rich and famous.
Very insightful, Mr. Featherland. There's truth to that. Knowledge is power, as they say. And we know a lot about powerful animals that could be used as weapons. Or the opposite, that could avert a war.
If I guess who the card belongs to, will you tell me?
I wouldn't say that's an acceptable price for such a secret as this, but if you guess right, I won't lie to you. Then, I will tell you you were right. Yes.
Good. Let's see. The answer to my question, Natasha Katsenko.
Well, Mr. Featherland, it seems the gossip about you is right. What gave it away?
It couldn't have been easier. There's a beautiful woman with a mysterious past, trying to keep it a secret, while someone's threatening her with the exact same thing, leaving rather unmistakable messages behind. Plus, we found the card on Deborah, who was her best friend and confidant, so she was either trying to hide it or destroy it forever, so no one could find out the truth. Am I right so far?
Indeed, Mr. Featherland.
So if I'm not mistaken, Natasha used to work for you before she met Ibn Wessler. He fell in love with her, gave her a job at the Millions Club. The rest is history.
You have talent, Mr. Featherland. I'm really sorry you're not working for the government.
I am working for the government. I'm a cop.
Are you sure, Mr. Featherland?
Touché.
Indeed. Natasha used to work here. We can put it that way, but you know, this isn't just a workplace. She also lived here. She was part of our family, and we still love her very much.
Right. That puts everything in a different light. Zaiwass is a true survivor, always was. And she's proud of that, even to this day. Maybe I can get her to trust me if I play to this part of her. Why did you take her in? Maybe you saw yourself in Natasha.
She was only 17 when she knocked on the rear entrance of the brothel on an unusually cold, rainy night. I opened the door myself.
Was Natasha alone?
Yes, completely alone. Her left arm was slashed with an ugly wound, and she was frozen to the bone, barefoot, only a thin nightgown on her.
Did she tell you what happened to her?
After I brought her into the house, warmed her up, and changed her into new clothes, that was the first thing I asked. But no, she didn't tell me. We became very good friends, but I still don't know what happened to her and where she came from, or how she knew about this place and the rear entrance.
And you weren't bothered by all those secrets?
That would have been very hypocritical of me, don't you think? No, it didn't bother me. I make a living out of secrets, Mr. Featherland.
I see. Do you know where Natasha came from before Clawville?
Naturally. The poor dear couldn't even deny it. Even her name's eloquent, her accent, but mostly her manners, Mr. Featherland. She's from Zaiwass, and she belonged to the upper class of Stavonian social circles. She could barely even speak the language when I first met her.
That's all you know about her. An ex-spy like you must have checked up on her new protege's past.
That's the most exciting thing. Yes, I have. Multiple times putting my most treasured connections to good use. But nobody found anything. Natasha's trail could only be traced back to the Stavonian border. What happened in that country, no one knows.
It's rather curious, don't you think?
It is, Mr. Featherland. Yes, curious. That's why I've always been rather fond of Natasha.
Did it touch you deeply when she left you?
Indeed, it did.
Zaiwass is protective. It seems she's dedicating her whole life to her proteges. If I concentrate on that, maybe she'll open up to me. Have you kept in touch?
Only occasionally, Mr. Featherland. She writes to me every few weeks, and very rarely we talk on the phone. But I haven't heard from her in weeks. The truth is, I've started to worry about her.
Did she give no sign of being in trouble?
Never. No. Natasha's not the kind to talk about her feelings.
Yeah, I've noticed that myself. When was the last time you saw her, Madame Zaiwass?
Maybe around 2 months ago. There was a ball, attended by Ibn Wessler, his beautiful mate Natasha, and myself. Yes.
Was she herself? Did you feel like she was afraid or worried about something?
On the contrary, she was unrestrained, free, radiant. She was in love. Yes, in her own unique way.
What do you mean?
You know Natasha loves on a different level than most Clawville women. Or most women in the wilderness, in fact. Maybe it's because of the Stavonian origins. Perhaps it's something else.
So you didn't notice anything strange about her?
Well, if anything could be called strange, it was that I saw a woman positively floating above the ground, who previously used to stand on it with 2 feet.
I see. Thank you, madam. How How did you feel when you learned Natasha was going to leave?
Honestly, I was very hurt. I loved her as a daughter. How would you have felt?
I couldn't say.
And I still couldn't stop her, and you know why?
Of course I do, because you loved her.
You've been in my shoes before, am I right, Detective? Yes, I can feel you have.
This isn't about me, madam. Please stop changing the subject.
I have felt betrayed on a certain level. Yes, and offended, and alone. Even amongst all my friends.
Were you disappointed in her?
Only in myself, Mr. Featherland. But I have a hunch you know this feeling very well.
Yes, you're right. Well, thank you for your time, madam.
Anytime, Detective. Yes, anytime.